All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a new episode of Touchdown Times. This is going to be our Week 12 preview, Week 11 recap. This is your boy Eli, aka Savvy Sav, and also my co-host on the mic, Andrew, aka A Low. How you doing, man?
I am doing good, man. What a week of football, man. We had some big wins and some close fantasy football matches coming up. So it was a great week of football. I'm excited to have our co-host as well as our guest on today, and I'm just excited for another round of touchdown times, man.
Yeah, man. And speaking of our guests, all three of us have teams that are killing it this year. So we're all riding pretty high. Inevitably, only one of us can maybe win the Super Bowl, and that would be great to see. With that, I will introduce our guest, hailing all the way out in the Beast Coast. I've known this man since our first year in college. He's known to be the troll of all trolls, the ultimate alpha alpha. He's my good friend, Zach Little, aka ZeeLit. How you doing, Zach?
Doing all right, man. I'm very excited to be here.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Glad to have you on. It's been a minute. Um, so I'll just jump right into this interview and ask you, who is this amazing team that you enjoy, and how are they doing this year?
Uh, we're the Detroit Jared Goffs. Yeah, the Lions have been killing it this year. I think we're 9-1 right now. A lot of big wins. We kind of got a little bit of like a easier-ish schedule coming up for the next couple games, but I think this is our year. I really do. I really truly do.
I mean, you guys were so close last year in the playoffs, just slightly there, and
Yeah,
and
don't
I,
remind me.
I think that was just
Yeah.
growing pains for you guys. You were still a young team, and I think you grew a lot from that.
Mhm.
I'm curious though, what made you subject yourself prior to all these good years to become a Lions fan? I mean, they are historically one of the worst teams in the NFL, so I'm wondering what made you do that.
So funnily enough, I haven't always been a Lions fan. In fact, I wasn't a fan of like the NFL at all. Pretty
Hmm.
much like my entire life, I was a big like NBA kid growing up, big basketball fan, Yankees fan. Um, and then like in 2018, I needed a team because I was doing like pick'ems at work, and everyone was giving me crap that I didn't even have a team to root for. So I had randomly picked in a pick'em the Lions to beat the Packers, and they did, and I was the only person that week to pick it, so they like instantly on the radar. And when I was going through teams, I was looking for like the most mediocre possible team I could pick that year, like in the last few years. They had just come off being like 9-7 2 3 times in a row, and I was like, you know what, those are my guys. Thank God, because the other option was the Carolina Panthers,
Oh,
and yeah.
you really rolled the dice
So
there, man.
no, I mean,
That's
I went through the Matt Patricia years and that first year of Campbell and that first 7 games of Campbell in his second season. And I thought, oh my God, bought all this gear, got all this stuff. It's over for me. I've just wasted like hundreds of dollars on Lions gear. And now I don't have a single regret.
nice. There you go. Yeah, I remember watching Hard Knocks, Dan Campbell's first
Oh,
year.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
gave everyone a chance to kind of see what a great guy he is and a great leader. And everyone just kind of wanted to root for them at that point to hopefully get
Mhm.
far. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's really cool to hear. I'm glad things are working out your way because if you're a Panthers fan right now, that
Yeah.
existence must be hell. So yeah, man. All right, nice. Good to hear. So I guess from watching football from as long as you have, do you have a favorite moment or a game that really stuck with you? And it could be even just last year, maybe them winning their first playoff game and how, since 1991, I think. So,
I think actually the probably my favorite moment since becoming a fan outside of the first playoff win, which was obviously incredible, was week 13, 2021, Lions versus Vikings. We were 0-10-1 at the time off a really sweet tie with the Steelers, ugliest game I've ever seen. And score was 27-23. We were down on our own like 35, something like that yard line. Uh, down, to whatever we were at, like everyone expected us to lose that game. The Vikings, I think at this time were like a pretty solid NFC North competitor. It's like 2 minutes left in the game, and we just stormed down the field. Amon-Ra St. Brown by that time had been like a solid enough receiver, not like the breakout all pro guy he is now. Jared Goff kind of just got in the zone. And then just watching us march and march and march. And then it was just that last play, 11-yard pass right to Amon Ra, like double coverage, falling back on the ball. Oh my God, it was one of the most incredible experiences I ever had. I screamed. I was wasted. It was a great time. I was yelling at my dad on the phone, like, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl next year. He's like, you're an idiot. They won one game. And I'm like, I don't care. Watching Jared Goff run over to the sideline, him and Dan Campbell give like this big hug. It was just, oh my God. It's the most cathartic thing ever after hearing like that whole season at that point that Campbell's just this meathead moron who's just going to scream and, talk about kneecaps and lines really just suck and they have no talent and they have this washed up quarterback and Goff and a bunch of goons as like the whole roster. It was just, oh, mwah. It was against the fucking Vikings too, so I'll take it any day of the week.
Hell
One
yeah,
of one of my favorite series I've ever seen.
it's got to be good to get that win finally in that
Mm-hmm.
season. And I remember seeing, I think the locker room highlights and just the hype they all had. So great to
Yeah.
see,
Oh
man.
yeah, so
Glad you got to.
110-1 team, and we're playing like we just won the Super Bowl, man. Whatever.
Hey, you take your wins where you can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, cool, man. I'll ask you this now: who would be your top players in the league? Could be from your team or could be just in general. Who are just your favorite guys you'd love to see?
Oh, favorite guys?
Yeah.
Uh, um, Sewell, Penny Sewell's on that list, and that's a
Mm.
weird pick because it's an offensive lineman and how much you really watch him. But like as a run heavy team, it's like incredible to see what he's doing to shove the entire defense to the side and give those openings to Gibbs and Monty and like him and Zeitler working together, just making that right side just nasty. And I think like other than that, I mean, obviously Hutch, those first 5 games was awesome. If we're talking not the Lions, Jamar Chase has been on a tear. And like him and Derrick Henry have probably been my like 2 top leads for offensive player of the year that aren't a quarterback. Um, they've been just kind of disgusting. Watch, and I just feel bad for Chase and Burrow, considering how trash the Bengals defense is outside of like Hendrickson. So
So bad.
yeah. And but like, outside of like watching Goff do some crazy stuff, Jackson's always entertaining to see. Josh Allen's been insane this year. He's trying to finally win that MVP, go on that Marino run where he loses a Super Bowl and then that's it, but he gets one MVP out of it. So like there you go. But yeah, I mean, there's a few guys that Joe Burrow is another guy too that's like that I'm rooting for, but the Bengals kind of suck, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
giving it their all and they're playing amazing, but yeah, they just can't get
Zach
it done.
Taylor, man.
Yeah.
It's
That
tough.
I think it's the defense more than anything for the Bengals, and it's really holding them back. But to circle back, with some of the great players that you're saying, I think you're one of the first guests to bring up, an offensive line or
Mm-hmm.
person, and most people always forget about the line. But when you actually watch tape and you run it back and you see those guys that open up those holes and push those guys to the next level, those are important to the team, and those
Mm-hmm.
what move the ball down the field is the people in the trenches. So shouts out to offensive tackles, offensive guards, and defensive linemen because they open things up for the rest of the team there. So it's cool to
Yeah.
to hear
Oh,
that.
yeah, Eli, for you too. There's another guy I'd like written down because I thought we were going to talk like top 3 players in the league.
Mhm.
Maeda on the Eagles has been in
Mm. His
that line. He's been huge. So that's been kind of cool to see. I mean, like that's helped Saquon so much. Like he actually has a real line to work with now.
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
story is great too, being originally from rugby.
Mhm.
They pulled him in the
Interesting.
seventh. They pulled him in the seventh round and taught him how to become a lineman.
He's a
So
7th round pick.
yeah,
He's
he
like
was
the
a
number one
huge
rated offensive tackle per like PFF, I think.
he was a huge like project, and he ended up like working out perfectly. He was like one of the best rugby players over in I think New Zealand. But yeah,
Hmm.
so cool story for him.
Yeah, that's sick.
Um, okay, cool. So that's the interview for now. I'll ask some more questions relating to fantasy football in a
Hmm.
little bit, but we'll jump in really quick to the matchups of week 11. So diving right in, we'll go into our Thursday night matchup that we had. We had a really fun one, a division rivalry. We had the Eagles taking on the Commanders. Eagles come out on top, 26 to 18. This was a huge push for who will be atop of the division, and I think this was a deciding factor on are the Commanders real or not. And as an Eagles fan, I'm really happy with this win. It solidified, I think, where this team is heading, how good of a run they've had since their bye week. It's now rattled off six straight, or I think six straight, right? Yeah, I think six straight. So, really good streak for them. And I think this was a pretty big test on our defense to be able to hold down Terry McLaurin, stop Jaden Daniels from, being the monster that he is. And yeah, it gives me a lot of hope for them. Um, where do you guys think the ceiling is for this Eagles team? And do the Commanders do they have still a good shot in the playoffs, or is this maybe they're going to need one more year to really get things together? I'll start with you, Zach.
Well, starting with the Eagles, I mean, I expect them to take the NFC East for like that little gap there. I thought it would might go to the commies, but I think that the Eagles have kind of hit their stride, and they're like a team that usually doesn't lose more than like 3 or 4 games a season, maybe like five, but like they've been pretty consistent the last few years. Obviously, I'm a little biased, so I don't see them winning the Super Bowl because the Lions are winning the Super Bowl. But if I'm trying to remove bias from it, they're a deep playoff contender right now. I'm not 100% sold on Sirianni. I'm curious to see how he does once they start, or not once, but when they play like a few other like big marquee games. I don't know if they have any big one. They have like the Steelers coming up, the Ravens coming up, like they have
They do
and
have a tougher
obviously the
schedule.
Rams this
Yeah.
week. So I really want to see how they overcome those kind of games because that to me tells like whether or not they're like a true contender or if they're like just going to be a solid regular season team. And then for the Commanders, I think they'll sneak into the playoffs. Not a lot of like those middle tier NFC teams are kind of like the NFC West is kind of like if you don't win it, you're not probably making it to the playoffs. So like I think they'll sneak in, but they'll probably be a first round exit. But I think give them like one more year, a couple extra weapons, and I think they'll be a real team.
All right, nice, nice. I think those are good insights. How about you, Andrew? How do you feel about both these teams?
Ooh, um, honestly, I think the Eagles have a good shot at being in the conference championship with the Lions and the NFC side of the bracket. I mean, just they're 1 and 2 right now, the Lions and the Eagles, and I it's hard, man. I mean, I'd like to see the Lions make it to the Super Bowl just because they have had the seasons that they've had in the past and what they've had to accomplish in recent years in order to get to where they're at now. On the other hand, the Eagles have had, success the last couple of years and have been on the brink each and every year to make it to the Super Bowl just as much. So, it's hard to say, but I definitely think the Eagles are going to make it to the conference championship, and I would put the Lions right there with them. Um, yeah, it's nice to see that what that Washington was knocked down a couple pegs by each of our teams. The Eagles and the Steelers knocked them down a couple pegs, so that was nice to see. They went from a second or third round seed in the playoffs to now a seventh round where they're on the almost on the bubble. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. I think Zach makes a good point with facing the Ravens and the Steelers, and then the Commanders maybe one more time to really see where they stand. But I think those are going to be the biggest tests later on down the road for the Eagles. I think they have a good shot at pulling off a good deep playoff run.
Nice. Yeah, I think it should be very interesting how this all shakes out. So as we get closer to playoffs, I'm excited. And Andrew, I definitely think we should do something special when the Eagles and Steelers play each other. Maybe we'll make a live bet. Someone's got to eat like a whole chicken or something on on video. We'll see. We'll do something stupid. But all right, moving into the next pretty big matchup for the week, another big divisional rivalry. We had the Ravens taking on the Steelers. Steelers eked this one out 18 to 16. This was a huge win for the Steelers. This is also them cementing their being top of the division. And yeah, they were able to, put these questions to rest, at least for the time being. However, I'll turn it over to you, Andrew, and ask, Are there red zone concerns? Do you believe this team can overcome those? And is Boswell obviously just fantasy football kicker of the year for all leagues?
So first and foremost, fantasy purposes, Boswell is automatic, and especially in these AFC North games when it really counts, he just seems to come through week in and week out. And I think part of the reason why he's so fantasy relevant is because we do have some issues when it comes to the red zone. It seems like we're better at moving the ball than in the previous years. And, we're seeing more offensive production with, Russell Wilson as our quarterback and George Pickens. And we're seeing the offensive production pick up compared to Kenny Pickett era. But in that regard, I do have some concerns when we get to the red zone, right? We can't put the ball in the end zone. Granted that, it was a hard fought one. I would have been nice to see, someone score a touchdown in this game for, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, our defense, had a lot of good turnovers and, kept us in the game and kept the Baltimore Ravens from scoring. But in that regard, it would have been nice to see some touchdowns in this game. And then hats off to Boswell. He is automatic and kept us alive and kept us really kept us in the game and gave us the win. So shouts out to him for this. Overall, I'm just glad that we won the Baltimore Ravens. It seems like we have their number every year, and it's always a dogfight every year. This is one of the matchups that I look forward to every year when it comes to the Steelers schedule because it's such a huge matchup. I'm glad that it was at home. I think that did play a difference in this game. I'm curious to see how it's going to shake down, next time they meet in the Ravens Stadium and in Baltimore. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm glad that we got a hard fought win and sets us up to going into the AFC North games really well, considering that this is going to be our biggest challenger, of those next few games. That this is the harder fought one. So overall, great game, and shouts out to the Pittsburgh Steelers for this one.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely seems like yeah, you guys have a pretty good dominance in your division. I'll turn it over to you, Zach. The Ravens, is this where are their issues coming from? It seems like their offense gets stifled. Their defense is definitely, they put in some work in the red zone, obviously this game, but I think overall they can give up big plays and lose their games for them sometimes. We've seen it. A couple of losses throughout the season have been sometimes the bad teams too. Like I remember that Raiders game, that was a tough one to watch. So, what can the Ravens do to give themselves a better opportunity down the line?
Well, the Ravens are kind of like one of those frustrating teams to watch. It's like when they're on, they're absolutely like just nasty. They're rude. They stomp on your throat. I mean, last year when we played them, we got obliterated. It wasn't even close. Like I turned that game off maybe in like the second quarter. I couldn't watch it. We were losing by like 30 by that point. But then it's a weird thing to say for a guy that's a two-time, maybe even three-time MVP after this year. But it's like under these pressure situations, it's like he starts getting the yips, Lamar Jackson, that is. It's like he starts to kind of not panic because that's not the right way. And that's not like kind of what I'm saying, but it's more like he just gets like more inconsistent. The tighter the game is, the more pressure that he's kind of under, which is so fascinating to see from a guy with that level of talent and skill. Um, Surprisingly, considering like the history of the Ravens defense, you generally don't think of them being like a middle of the road defense. They've like always been like a one of the best defenses ever, like year in and year out. And it's just like this year, I think losing McDonald as their DC really like hurt them a lot because it just seems like they're not making the adjustments they need to make. Like they have the talent there. They have guys like Roquan Smith. They got Humphreys there. They got what's his name? The safety, the one that's in his sophomore year. Uh Shoot.
Not 100%
Hamilton.
sure.
Hamilton, yeah, thank you. Yeah, they have like a lot of talent on that defense, but it just seems like they can't figure it out. Like they can't crack the code every week. And it's just kind of fascinating to see because like this game, for example, I mean, no discredit to the Steelers, but the Ravens really didn't have like weren't playing like a team that should have beat the Steelers. Like the Steelers went out there and kicked 6 field goals. Like it wasn't like the Steelers were doing anything exceptional on offense. Like the Ravens are supposed to be a team that can go, pound for pound against something like that. And I think they just need to like kind of like clean up that late stage fear. Maybe it's the coaching. I don't really know, but yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to see his team like the Steelers, where even when they don't do anything on offense like too significant, they just keep winning anyway. They just decide, screw it. Who needs touchdowns? Who needs anything exciting? We're just gonna play hard nosed defense and kick field goals and win. So, yeah, I think Lamar probably might win MVP if it's not Allen this year. It's probably going to go to Lamar again, unless voter fatigue. But I just don't see the Ravens getting past like the divisional round if they do what they keep doing, like they've been the last 4 years, 5 years. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a monkey on their back that I think they want to overcome, but it's the AFC is such a tough conference, so we'll see how that goes and shakes down. But all right, we'll move into our next game. We had the Colts taking on the Jets. This was my upset of the week. Got it right. Colts ended up winning 28 to 27. Huge loss for the Jets. This was, they needed this one badly, and I think this solidifies Aaron Rodgers possibly not being on the team next year. I think they're gonna have to move on from this. They tried to fire their coach, tried to change some things around, but it's just not happening for them. And hey, look at the Colts. They are close to 500 again, and it looks like they're confident with Anthony Richardson. And they may have maybe make a playoff push. We don't know. They could make the bubble, but like we said, it's still a very tough conference. I'll start with you, Andrew. What's next for the Jets? Do they move on from A-Rod? And then are the Colts a playoff team? You think they could maybe make a run to make seventh seed?
Ooh, um, man, I don't know if the Colts are a playoff team. That's hard to answer right now, in my opinion, just because the quarterback situation for the Colts is hot and cold, and it's right and left, and you don't know what you're gonna get, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco, and it just seems like they're still trying to figure that out. With that being said, Richardson, had played this game, and they say he's going to be the starter, but this was a game that went back and forth, and um, I don't know if they're really a playoff contention team. I think they're on the bubble right now, and they they could do that depending on how the rest of the season shakes out for them, but I'm not entirely sure. It's hard to say at this point in the season. On the other end of the ball, the Jets. This was a team that has all the weapons. They have, Aaron Rodgers. They just traded for Devontae Adams. They have Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. These are all, players that we want in fantasy and expect to do well, and essentially a super team when it's all come together. And I don't know whether it's coaching. I don't know if it's the midseason changes in coaching. I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of things going wrong with this organization and trending in the wrong direction, and it just seems to be a pattern. I don't think they're a playoff team at this point, and it's really hard to see to think where the rest of the season goes for the New York Jets and even into next year, right? They've kind of put all their pieces into play this season and last season to make a playoff run, and it just looks like general management and coaching has some issues, and they have all the pieces to make a run, but it just didn't work out in their favor this year. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Jets and the Colts. It's hard to say, where each of these teams are going to go in the near future here, but um, I'm glad I really don't have anybody except for Josh Downs on either of these teams, to be honest.
Yeah, and you're talking to a guy who has both Adams and Wilson, so this is a very frustrating situation right now. But they have an easier schedule down the line, so I think they may be able to, yeah, get
Are they
some.
really going to be fighting for it? Are they really going to be trying those? That's my thing is I feel like when it comes to fantasy relevancy and especially later on down the end of the line, I'm looking for players that are making playoffs because they have more to fight for. I'm looking for those teams that are on the bubble because they're really playing for something versus a team that might be 3-8,
Incentives.
two and
My, my
seven.
my best guess is contract incentives. Boys are trying to
Yeah,
get yardage, trying to score. Aaron Rodgers maybe trying to
trying to
fight to
get
stay on the
paid.
team. Yeah, something. That's all I can hope for. All right, let me be
Yeah.
optimistic here. All right, Zach, I'll switch it over to you and I'll ask you this. Imagine it's 2018 and you decide to pick a team that's actually on the coast and you are a Jets fan. How are you feeling right now? What where do you go from here? Do you grab the paper bag and put it over your head and wear that perpetually for the next 5 years? What's the deal? What's the deal with this team?
Well, funnily enough, my wife's a Jets fan, kind of.
Mm. So
She hasn't
by
been watching
proxy.
very much. Yeah. My thought is this: it's that they've catered too much to Rodgers. That's really what it's come down to. Um, I mean, I think I saw a stat somewhere where it's like that the Jets are giving up nine or some more points than they were with Salah. Like up until this point, their defense has just kind of fallen off a cliff. And I think a lot of that has to do with him. Like Ulbrich is a solid defensive coordinator. Um, but I think having Salah there for some of those other like coaching decisions when it came to that side of the ball, losing that was huge. And I think bringing in guys like Hackett, who's not a great offensive coordinator, was a horrid head coach. I think like they just like I mean they even demoted the guy because they realized like that their offense was just nothing. And like Andrew said, like I mean, they have all of these pieces on offense. They got Brees Hall, they got Devontae Adams, they got a few other pieces there that like you can tell that they have something. It's not like they have the worst offensive line in the league either. So it's not like that they can't get the ball out or move the ball. It's just like the pieces just aren't coming together. And I think firing Joe Douglas is just kind of funny. Like it doesn't really accomplish anything. They can't interview anyone now. So I mean, like, who cares? You could have just kind of silently fired him later and then just gotten over it. I mean, like the Jags didn't even fire Balky, so I mean, like, who cares, right? Like firing your GM when the season at this point you can't bring in any free agents or not free agents, any trades or anything like that. You're just kind of prepping for the draft. So, I mean, I feel like yeah, I'd go for a paper bag. I might boycott the team a little bit, fireman Joe, like get him to like throw like a Molotov at MetLife or something. I mean, it's the worst field anyway, so no one's really gonna notice if half it burns. Uh but no, I think the Jets kind of are screwed. I think up until maybe about like 3 weeks ago, people were saying, well, maybe they'll just go on a run, maybe they'll figure something out, but it just doesn't seem like it. I mean, even if they win out, what are they? They're 3-8 right now or something like that.
Yeah.
So they went out, they end 9-8. They don't make the playoffs 9-8. There's too many teams that are probably going to have like 10 or 11 wins. So it's kind of like pointless at this point. So I think, I mean, on your fantasy point, I assume like Wilson will still eat, Brees Hall will still eat, but I would expect Devontae Adams to start kind of mentally checking out like he did with the Raiders. Um, they might bench Rodgers at some point, just kind of saying, safe face saying like, oh, well, the season's a wash anyway. So we'll just kind of get some reps for a backup. Who's their backup? I don't even know. So I don't know. It feels like a waste of so much for the Jets. And I feel so bad for New York fans, like
I
New
mean,
Jersey fans,
New
sorry.
York fans in general, the Giants just benched, Daniel Jones, and they just paid him fucking $60 million.
Yo, they're
So
making him.
Yeah.
I saw today that they brought in Tim Boyle, and they might make Daniel Jones the fourth string quarterback just to guarantee he can't get hurt because of those injury agreements in this contract. So, like, god damn, that sucks. The Yankees lose the World Series, and then you follow that up with the Jets being atrocious after everyone expected them to do something, and the Giants. I mean, no one had high expectations, but like, damn, they lost to the Panthers. The
Yeah.
Panthers, who were the 32nd ranked like offense and defense. You lost to them in Germany. You subjected Germany to that game with MGK. Oh my god, that's just ugh. Yeah,
that's tough.
no.
It's
I
tough.
mean, I feel bad for New York fans. I guess like at least the Giants won two Super Bowls in the last 20 years. Like the Jets haven't won anything since like what was it like the 60s, 70s. So
Yeah, to be a Jets fan, we'll have to find someone, Andrew. We need to get a real Jets fan to come on here and
yeah.
just rant for the entire hour and a half.
They'll just talk about Joe Namath and the glory days that they had
Yeah.
back in those days. So
All right. Well, moving on. We'll keep it running. We have another divisional matchup. The Packers went on the road and played the Bears. Packers squeak it out 20-19. This was a very, very close one. I think the Bears did have a chance at the end, but alas, they could not do it. I'll start with you, Zach, on this one. Uh, So these are two of your divisional rivals. how far do you see the Packers going? And is the Bears, are they done, or do you think they can still make a playoff push to get to there?
I want to make some like mean spirited comments because I hate the Packers and I don't really like the Bears, but karma's a bitch, and I'm just not going to do that. So instead, um, hilarious outcome, by the way. That blocked field goal was absolutely hysterical after seeing the one last week with the Chiefs doing that to the Broncos. I didn't expect we'd see one this soon. The Packers are interesting. They'll make the playoffs for sure. Unfortunately, I expect to have to see them in the divisional round, which is not fun because that's not like a team that you want to see. My biggest concerns right now is that Jordan Love keeps putting on his Brett Favre cape and throwing bombs for interceptions for no real reason, or doing like little weird attempt to do a screen pass while under triple coverage into an interception for a pick six. So I think that Matt LaFleur is a solid coach and they have a lot of great weapons, but they've been underperforming a little bit, even with their record of 7-3, even with like what's been going on with them. Like I felt like they should have been more dominant this year, or not at least, or like at least performed better overall. So uh I expect though, like I said, they'll make the playoffs. They might win first round because they'll probably end up facing like the Cardinals or something, and that's a winnable game for them. Uh, the flip side, the Bears, Skull Bears, they're in hell in the weirdest way because they brought in like the biggest rookie sensation since what Luck. They brought in a bunch of receiver options. It was supposed to be considered like a impossible to screw up scenario, but they did one thing, which was not fire Matt Eberflus, and that's kind of screwed them because their OC was terrible and the structure of that offense was just not really functioning. But like Eberflus is not a good coach. His record is abysmal over the last like 2 and change years. I think it's 2 and change, and they haven't been like successful across the board in like a lot. Like, yeah, that early season they were winning against like the Cardinals and I think like the Patriots. They had some terrible teams that they were beating up on. But the second they've started to play like real teams, I mean, their defense is still strong. And I think Eberflus is a defensive minded coach, but like Caleb Williams is just not performing like a all time great like some of the analysts were expecting. I didn't think he was going to be there immediately. I think some people did. Um, they're not going to make a late playoff push. I'd be shocked if they did. I think they'll get a couple more wins, probably end with like 7 wins, maybe. Um, but I think like give them like another year or two, and they'll be like a consistent team again. But as of right now, I don't expect a lot from the Bears. The Packers, like I said, they're at least a more dangerous team, but I think that they have weaknesses that have been shown to be capitalized on.
Hmm.
Let me ask you this, Zach. I have the Vikings at 5 and the Packers at 6, and obviously they got to go through this division and this NFC North. With that being said, it looks like you have a tough division in the NFC side of the bracket here. You think the Green Bay Packers are going to have a higher rated seed than the Minnesota Vikings? And if so, like what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it seems that you're kind of favoring Green Bay over the Vikings in the rankings here. Why is that?
Because I have not very much faith in Darnold personally. I mean, the Vikings have been kind of overperforming from my perspective. Not to say they don't have the talent. I mean, they have Justin Jefferson. Come on now. They have Aaron Jones. And their defense has been really strong. And it's really funny, like how like socially people have been kind of talking on the Vikings defense. Where like 6 weeks ago they were the number one defense, the best defense. Oh my god, insanely good defense. They're a Super Bowl contender, and then they lost to us, and they had a lot of close games after that, and they lost another one, I think. And then people are saying, oh well, their defense isn't very good. They're not that great. I think the Vikings defense is solid. I just don't buy into Darnold. I mean, he's starting to show cracks. There's a reason he's been a backup quarterback. resurgence aside, like I just don't anticipate that it's really going to keep going. And that's why, and I mean, like, FTP, fuck the Packers. Like, I just expect, you know, the people I hate the most to make a more noise in the playoffs than the Vikings.
Mm.
And I think as the season progresses, I think Kevin O'Connell is a great coach, and I think I think he's just shy of Matt LaFleur. But I just kind of anticipate that the Packers might be better. But I mean, I'm looking at a playoff picture as of right now. It's the Packers against the Cardinals and the Vikings against the Falcons. Now, I think in both of those matchups, the NFC North team would win. Uh, Personal opinion. I mean, if either of them dropped enough to play the Eagles, then we're talking about like a tougher matchup, like one where I think the Eagles could probably win that. But I think the Cardinals are like kind of just on top of a crap mountain. Like they're not bad, but they're not like exceptional. And I think the Falcons are just the Falcons. So, it's kind of like shrug my shoulders at that one. So I think,
Makes
like I
sense.
said, the as of right now, I'd say the Packers seem to be a more dangerous team. They have like a little bit more together, and I would trust Love over Darnold.
Mm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, so we'll see how those two shake up. I'm gonna move on to the next game really quick. We'll move into the another divisional matchup. A lot of divisional matchups this week. This was an upset I did not expect to see. I was sold that the Niners always had the Seahawks number, but the Seahawks came in, they played the Niners, and they won 20-17. And this has been a story all year for the Niners. They seem to drop close games, and being at 5-5 now, you'd think they would be able to maybe make a comeback after their bye, but they've been struggling, especially against their own division. So this seems like anyone's division right now. Anyone could take it. I'll move it to you, Andrew. Who's going to win this division? Because looking at this, Niners aren't a lock.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have Arizona at 6-4, and then the rest of the teams, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers all at 500. So it's a tough division. It's not a tough division. It is like Zach said, it's a crap mountain, right? These are all teams that are very close in the runnings, but they're not exceptional teams. They're not high in any playoff bracket. Um, and man, it's hard to say. I mean, at this point, I think I'd have to take a look at the schedule and really do, some cross analysis, but I think my favorite would probably be the Seattle Seahawks. They have all the offensive weapons between Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet as a backup or that 1-2 punch, and then you have DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's really shown what he can do in the absence of DK. That'd probably be my favorite. I think San Francisco has all the right pieces. They have CMC coming back. They have Debo. It looks like Jawan Jennings stepping into that wide receiver one role and could play that role for the San Francisco 49ers. The Chargers, they have Puka Nacua back. They have Cooper Kupp back. They have their weapons back and they're healthy again. Seems like they're firing again. We'll see how they play this week against the Eagles. It's a big matchup for Sunday night. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then Arizona, they're leading the pack 6-4. But we'll see how that plays out, right? Kyle Murray is somewhat inaccurate in games, and he's not as consistent as you would like to see. And neither is Marvin Harrison Jr. So it's a tough, NFC West standings, but it's nothing I'm concerned of when it comes to playoffs. I don't think any of these teams are really going to make it that far in the playoffs in the NFC side of the bracket here. Again, my favorite would probably be the Seattle Seahawks taking this division here.
All right, cool. So shout out to Elliott. Hopefully, his team can get that. Zach, would you agree? Would you say the Seahawks have the best shot, or would you say another team does?
I mean, just out of like expectation, it should be the Niners because as Andrew said, I mean they're all 500. Like these teams, none of them are exceptional. Um, but it's just funny that shout outs to Scott for reminding me today that the Shanny has lost 4 games on last minute drives to every NFC West team this year, which is kind of sad. Um, I think actually, and this is my sleeper pick. I got the Rams winning the NFC West. I think None of like as I said before, none of them are going to make the playoffs outside of whoever wins that division. But my sleeper is the Rams, and my reasoning is that I think that with Puka and Cup and Williams, as long as Stafford doesn't throw them into losses, that offense is probably the most consistent across all four teams. The defense verse has been solid. A few of their other guys have like really picked it up. I think a couple of their rookies have been really good. Um, I mean, even with the loss of Donald, like they've been really like at least solid. They're not giving up 80 points a game like some people were kind of expecting them to be. Uh, the Seahawks, I just don't believe in them. I think like they're gonna be solid and they're gonna win a couple more games. Like, don't get me wrong, they'll probably win like 8, maybe 9 games, but I think like the sleeper team of them is the one that started the worst, which is the Rams. But the Niners, I'd give the most respect to. The Cardinals are just funny. I mean, they're just a team that could sneak in just because they feel like it, and no one can really do anything about it. But I think like historically, Kyler Murray in like the months of December and like late November and into
God.
January has kind of performed like how the Dolphins are, which is horrid, or at least just not good enough to win. So who's to say? But I right now my pick from that division is going to be the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I personally, I know they're just one game up, but Cardinals were last in the league last year, or last in their division, so they technically should have an easier schedule. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think just based off that, because these teams are all so even, I just give it to the team with the easier schedule. But that's just my thought on that. So we'll see. I think we all have different opinions, and I think who knows? At the end of the day, Niners just end up taking it. And we're all wrong. So moving into one of the last few games we'll talk about. This was a big upset. We had the Bills, not upset, but Bills taking on the Chiefs. Chiefs fall. They have their first loss of the season. They're 9-1. Bills win at 30. Was it 30-21, I believe?
Yeah, pop the
Um,
champagne for the Dolphins.
Yeah, so they're all celebrating, I'm sure, to be still the only undefeated team ever. But yeah, man, this was one I think we all called last week, Andrew. We called that the Bills would win this one. So very happy to see that. I knew the Chiefs had to drop one at some point, and they were winning such close games that it seemed inevitable that they would have to lose one of them. And it turns out probably one of the best teams in the AFC against the Bills. So I'll start with you, Zach. Is this Chiefs team still the one to probably make the Super Bowl out of the AFC, or did they show some cracks here that that maybe the Bills are a contender again, the Steelers, the Ravens, what are the Chiefs still the favorites to you?
I think the AFC is a fight between three teams, and that's the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Steelers. I don't think it's the Ravens. I honestly think it's the Steelers taking up that three spot right now. And it's purely because, and I just remember watching a game a few weeks ago when it was like Monday night and they were doing like the whole like player intros, like, oh, such and such. And I'm looking at the Steelers, defenses they're naming them. I'm like, oh, that's all pro, pro bowler, all pro, pro bowler, pro bowler, all pro. It's like, okay, like that team is it's just a murderer's row on defense. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And, I hate how much like Collinsworth jerks him off and Romo jerks him off and everyone else jerks him off. It's like, oh, if there's one guy that's going to come back in the fourth quarter by behind 8 scores, it's that man right there, Patrick Mahomes. It's like, it's the lamest thing ever. But like, until proven otherwise, I mean, damn, they've made it to what, 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls or something like that. It's like something crazy. Like they're just always there. They're always a threat. There's only been like 2 teams that have beaten them in the playoffs. One's the Pats and one's the Bengals. So it's like,
No, Bengals didn't. Oh, wait, to get there. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah,
No, they
that's what I'm
didn't.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they have like a history of losing in the playoffs or anything like that, or like over the last few years that there's been teams that have like really just dominated them. Like, you can't remove them from the conversation. And I hate it. I hate it so much, man. I cheered when they lost, but I'm like, great. Who cares? They're still going to figure it out. They still have enough pieces on there that they can do something. Their defense is still a top 5, 6 defense. Patrick Mahomes will still do Patrick Mahomes things, run around like a toddler with a toy he's not supposed to have. But I mean, my pick going into the season to play the Lions in the Super Bowl was the Bills. And my expectation was Allen was going to be competing for an MVP this year. And so far, I mean, look like I'm on track for that. Uh, the Bills are scary. Yeah, they dropped a couple wins or a couple games, but they've been playing very well. They've been even though Josh Allen wasn't eye popping over the last few weeks, he's still been doing enough. Like he's not losing them games. Like there was a few a couple years ago and even last year there'd be a few games where it'd be like he'd have like a 3 interception, 4 interception game, and you're like, oh my God, here comes Josh Allen again, kind of blowing the late season games. He hasn't been doing that. I think it's just been the changes in like their offensive coordinator that's kind of really helped them out. I think that they have kind of shown that they can be more consistent, but I mean, it remains to be seen if they can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. I mean, come on, they're what 0-4 against them or something like that. So
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, at the rate he's going, Allen's going to be this. I said it before. He'll be this generation's Marino, and that's kind of sad to say, but like, I hope he at least gets an MVP out of it.
You hope so. You hope so. I'll move it over to you, Andrew. We just obviously we can sit here and talk about the Chiefs all day, and whether or not that they'll repeat again. But the Bills, I mean, how are you liking them? Do you think they have a strong enough team this year? I know we had concerns about losing Diggs, and granted they got Cooper, but it doesn't seem like he's making a huge impact. Maybe down the line he will, but can Josh Allen just carry this team all the way to a victory?
Man, I mean, it seems like he did it in this Chiefs game, right? I mean, he threw for 262 yards, a touchdown, and then he ran for 55 more yards in the game-winning touchdown here. So, I mean, his top receiver only had 70 yards, and it was Shakir. So it seems like they are doing that. It seems like Josh Allen's playing hero ball. One thing I will notate on this is Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions, and it's really hard to come back when you're turning the ball over, especially late in the third and fourth quarter. And who's going to have? And I think a lot of these games, if you don't have turnovers, it comes down to who has the ball last and who can capitalize on the time management. And I think because they had another turnover. The Chiefs had another turnover, and Buffalo Bills just had the ball last. I think they capitalized on that, and they were able to put it away with the win. Overall, I want the Bills to win. I don't want to see another, Kansas City holding up another Super Bowl Lombardi trophy, but these are two of the top teams in the AFC right now, and we'll see how it plays out the rest of the season. But to flip it back to you, what are your thoughts? Kansas City, they're ranked first in the AFC West standings. The Buffalo Bills, they're ranked first in the AFC East standings. What's your thoughts on who's going to take, the AFC side of the ball and who's going to make it to the Super Bowl here?
Until they can prove me wrong, Chiefs are just daddy in the playoffs, right? They are literally Buffalo Bills daddy. Like they take care of work. They no these season wins, I agree and I see it. And we've seen it before. They beat them in the normal season, but playoff comes, it's the experience, it's the confidence that they have going in, and I think it's just another monkey on their back.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If the Bills get the number one seed and they know they got a game plan for the Chiefs and they have a whole week to do so, just like the Chiefs have done previously, do you think they can win?
I certainly would hope so, but knowing the odds, it goes to overtime and Mahomes somehow ekes it out in overtime, man. Like no matter what you do, you put him at home. You play in a stormy, maybe if it's a heavy snow game and you have to rely on your run game, even then Pacheco should be back. So you never know. And it's really hard. And the Chiefs are just an unstoppable force.
I
I'd
got
like the
one.
Bills to win, but
I got
yeah.
I got one for you, Eli. How many games did the Chiefs drop before the year ends? So I'm looking at their schedule right now. They got the Raiders, the Chargers, the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos, and obviously the Panthers this week. Because my follow up is there any way the Chargers could overtake them for the AFC West?
Ooh. Um,
Chargers only have 3 losses, and they have the number one defense right now based on points allowed, I believe, and a couple other advanced metrics. if the Chargers went out, which I mean, I don't believe in them, the Chargers will charge, but if they did win out, do you think the Chiefs would drop enough games to fall to a wild card spot, which is something I don't think anyone would have ever thought would happen this year, but a lot of stuff's going on this year that no one expected.
Because you said it, the Chargers do charge. I don't expect them to win out, and their next game is going to be at home versus the
against the
Chargers, and that's a
Ravens. Yeah.
tough. I was gonna say, yeah, so they're playing the Ravens. That's tough, and then when the Chargers play the Chiefs, it'll be in Kansas City, and it's always tough there. And I think they have a better shot maybe in LA, but yeah,
Yeah,
I would.
I don't see that happening. To be honest, I don't see that happening. I agree with Eli. They face the Ravens. The Chargers face the Ravens, Battle of Harbaugh, and then they face the Chiefs at home. That's tough. On the other side of the ball, Kansas City, their biggest
Steelers are probably
competition are
their
the
biggest one.
Steelers,
Yeah, I was
maybe the
gonna
Texans,
say.
but the Steelers are their biggest competition, and that doesn't come until the second to last game. So at that point, they have momentum. They have the season's a little bit further along. They know where they're playing in playoffs. So that sense is just closer to the end game there. I
So we're
don't think
saying
that
like two
happens.
or three losses for them on the season.
Yeah,
At most
realistically,
two.
I think
At most two, so that they might end up keeping the one seed then. Because I mean I don't think Buffalo has like a cakewalk to finish the season, and they've already got two losses. They still have to pay the nine. They have the Niners coming up. They got the Rams. They got us. And then I mean Jets and Patriots is whatever. But like, so we're
still like yeah,
expecting another.
losable games. I think more for the
Yeah.
Bills than
So
the
then
Pat
we're
or
expecting
Yeah.
another Chiefs gets home game through the
Home
entire
field
playoffs.
advantage, yeah.
most likely.
That's what it's looking like. Unless the Chargers can win and the Steelers can win, and somehow Buffalo pulls off some upsets with Detroit or possibly some other teams that
Not Detroit,
that
but
yeah. We'll see how it plays out, but it's interesting to talk about it and see the schedules and see where these top contention teams are for sure.
Well, we'll see how the last half of the season shakes out. I'm excited. All right, we'll move into the last recap game. And we'll just let you talk all you want about it, man. I know there's not much to say for the Jags, but obviously Lions scoregami. They won 52 to
I saw that.
6. So, you don't see this score very often. And yeah, Lions just completely decimated this Jags team. Granted, they were playing with Mac Jones. They were already having a lost season. They're down some key guys as well. But yeah, Lions just ran out the score. Do you think that was mean of them? Do you think they should have pulled their starters? What was the point of just once you're in the 30s, man? Do you guys need to score more, or is that just you guys are exercising your demons out there? What's going on?
Oh man, you got a couple things that you brought up that I wanted to cover. I don't want to talk too much because one, this game was a blowout, and two, I feel like I've been yammering a lot. So I'll try to keep this a little bit more concise. I think in regards to your last point, like, did we run up the score? I mean, we played 4 quarters of football. Sorry that we didn't pull. We have 3 backup linemen. What are we going to do? Send out like backup running backs and wide receivers to be linemen?
Eagles
Do you
did
want
that
us
to
to
the
like
Giants. It was
to
a shitty
bench
fourth
like
quarter,
the whole
but
team? Do you want us to like call out play people in the audience like, hey, Joe Schmo, go out there and play a wide receiver for Hendon Hooker or something? No, but I mean, like, it's the same thing as when we were playing like the Cowboys. It's we're gonna play like three and change quarters of football. Like, and I think that this kind of goes back to the Niners game in the playoffs last year. I think we got complacent going into the second half, and then Jameer Gibbs fumbled the ball. Uh, Famous Star Wars cornerback Kindle Vilder, one of the most ridiculous names in the league, blowing that interception and the stupidest catch in the history of time by Brandon Ayuk on like the 3 yard line. Uh, I think that Campbell showed that game to the team. I heard in like an interview like 5 or 10 times in like the preseason, like reminding them that they can't slow down. Like, don't just stop just because you think that you're doing well. But I don't think that it's really running up the score. I mean, the Jags just aren't that good. But I want to say this, and I want to say this for you know everyone out there that talks about like winning against these teams like this to this degree, like beating like the Titans or the Cowboys by 30 plus points. Really good teams are supposed to do that. And I think that people forget that. Like I watched like the Packers and the Vikings barely beat the Jags or beat them by like a little bit or beat the Titans just by a little bit. We smoked them. We absolutely dominated them. We made them look like collegiate level football teams. That's what good teams are supposed to do. So I expect that kind of performance from like the Bills did that to, I think, was it the Jags or the Titans? They won by like the same kind of margin. So what that tells me is that the Lions have kind of become like a top tier team. That tells me we're like a true top tier team, is that we're dominating teams we're supposed to. I kind of throw out the loss of the Bucks only because it's still like early season. The first 2 or 3 weeks, I think across the league, a lot of teams are still kind of working out some kinks. Like you're working out like the fact that most of your starters didn't play in the preseason unless it's like a team full of rookies. But I mean, like I don't feel bad for the Jags. Like I mean, in fact, I'm like rooting for them to fire their coach, their GM, and everyone else. So I mean, there's that, I guess. But I mean, if we're talking about the game itself, though, like if there's anything to really say, I mean, I don't really have much to put in. Like Goff decided, like, you know what? I look like crap. I threw 5 interceptions, four of them being like legit, and then like one of them being just a bomb the end of the half, like who cares kind of throw. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to throw a perfect game. And he did. Threw a perfect passer rating. Was it like 3 touchdowns, like over 400 passing yards? It's disgusting. Just absolutely rude what he did out there. So I don't mind it. I mean, I would love if every game was like that. I thought I was gonna have a stroke watching the Titans or the Texans Lions game. I almost turned the TV off. So yeah, I'm really hoping that we keep doing that, but we'll see what happens as the season progresses. I mean, we still got a few weeks, and we just had another big injury in Alex Anzalone. That's like the only one I can think of in terms of like big ones across the league, and that's not even like a big one for most other teams. Like no one would really think about that, but like he's kind of the heart of our linebacker core. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a big loss for us. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He'll be back for like the playoffs, but
Do you know who's filling in for that spot and how
uh,
capable he is at doing so?
as of right now, I think the 2023 rookie Jack Campbell, I guess sophomore now, is going to kind of take over that leadership role. Malcolm Rodriguez. If you guys watched Hard Knocks, he was like a big like standout person in that. They focused a lot on him as like one of those bubble guys. He's been really solid this year. He missed a few games with an injury, but we have a couple guys that are coming back from injury, but man, that injury bug has been killing us on defense, man. We've been down. I mean, losing Hutch in
Richardson.
week
Yeah.
5. We've had a few guys like on and off the IR. Josh Pascal, one of our rushers, just was out for a bit. Like it's been brutal, but like we're still figuring it out. Like, damn, like our safety core is like the two best safeties in the NFL right now, and Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. Like, we're still able to figure out ways to win, and it just sucks because that means we're probably going to lose both coordinators next year.
Yeah.
Like Aaron or Ben Johnson has been someone that people have been talking about for forever as like a possible um head coach option because he's like this big uh like big brain kind of like Shanahan-esque kind of guy for the Lions. And I think a lot of teams like the Bears almost picked him up last year, but then they ended up sticking with Eberflus, and a few other teams like the Commanders were looking to take him. And then Aaron Glenn, our defensive coordinator, I mean, we've been getting better defensively year over year over year. And it's not like we've brought in like a TJ Watt or a Max Crosby or Sauce Gardner every year. I mean, we brought in DJ Reader, who's like 33. We brought in Darius Smith just now, got his first sack with us. But it's not like we've been making some crazy $1 billion moves. It's just like we're figuring it out how to win with the guys that we're drafting, the guys like the mid-level players that we're bringing in. So um, I'm hoping we just keep this momentum, man. Like that's my biggest fear is like people start getting complacent. Campbell won't let them, but I mean, like it's a player mentality, Like if you just keep winning, you're like, why do I even need to care? Like we'll just keep winning anyway, and then boom. you lose, and then you look like shit, and everyone mocks you. Like last year when we played the Ravens and got dominated and looked like the worst team in the NFL, and it was like, the Lions are frauds. They're the worst team ever. So
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You guys are looking great right now. Just don't become complacent. And yeah, we'll go from there. So, all right, that was our week 11 recap. Had a lot of fun games to talk about, a lot of good divisional matchups. We'll move into our week 12 preview, and we'll start with the primetime games. So we'll jump right into it. Thursday night, we have the Steelers taking on the Browns. This will be in Cleveland. The spread is Pittsburgh favored by 3.5. Um, Personally, I know the spread is probably like that because the Steelers, they've been all field goals lately. But the Browns are a bad team. They're 2-8. The Steelers are 8-2. I think their defense should dominate this. So even if Steelers kick another 6 field goals, I don't think the Browns are scoring. So, give me the Steelers. I think they cover that spread. And yeah, I think it should be a defensive dominant game, and you don't have to do much for the Steelers. Andrew, I'll start with you. Who do you think's gonna take this one? You think they'll cover the spread?
Yes, sir. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take this. They're going to move on to a 9-2 record. Cleveland is not that team this year. They've got some quarterback issues. Winston now is the quarterback, and even at that, they just haven't been a good team overall. I think this will be a low scoring game. I'd probably bet the under on this, and I'd like to see the Pittsburgh Steelers, come back with a vengeance as far as offensive production and getting in the red zone, like I've been mentioning. With that being said, I think the Steelers should take this, even though it's at the Browns. I think it'll be a run-oriented game. But I hope Najee finds the end zone. I hope the maybe Darnell Washington or Pat Freiermuth find the end zone. I could see that happening. And we'll see how it plays out. But the Steelers should take this single-handedly. They've won the last 5 out of 5 games that they've had, while Cleveland's lost, 4 out of 5 games that they've had. But ironically, they beat Baltimore, so that was a close game for us. So we'll see how it plays out. I do think we take this pretty easily. Pittsburgh Steelers win by at least a touchdown, in my opinion here.
All right. And Zach, who do you got? Who do you think's gonna cover the spread?
Steelers and Steelers cover the spread.
Okay. I think it's easy, right? Like that's
Yeah.
to me that's a lock.
Browns suck. I'm sorry, Browns suck.
Worst case scenario, yeah, this is a you guys have to win, right, Andrew? If you guys lose this one, that is a huge trap game. If that's just gonna
It's
look
also
really
AFC
bad.
North football, so like they could lose. The
Anything
score
could
could be
happen.
2-0.
Yeah, anything could happen, but I doubt it. I think the Steelers, their defense is on
Yeah.
lock. So just try to not stress, just enjoy the game. I think it should be a solid lock. Um,
The tickets are $29. I just saw it. I'm like, why don't I live in the area?
Big quick fight to
But then
Cleveland,
again,
man. Go a little weekend.
who wants to go to the Browns stadium and watch the Browns? That's probably why. Even a good AFC North, division matchup, that's crazy. Anyways, just makes me think I might be traveling, this season to find some games cheaper than California rates is all.
Yeah, it is getting very pricey. Okay, moving into Sunday night, we have my team, the Eagles, taking on the Rams. This will be in LA. I believe Michael will be attending this game. I'll be with some family, so I'm not going to make it. But I already saw the Eagles do their work earlier this year, so I'm happy with that. This one, I think this is going to be a fun matchup. I think this will put our defense again to the test. I love our younger guys, our rookie corners. Uh, Kenyon Mitchell has been dominating. He's stopped Terry McLaurin, held him down. Cooper DeJean has also been very formidable. So I think this is their test. Can you hold down Cup? Can you hold down Puka? I'm willing to give them short yardage, but can you stop the big plays? And can you put pressure on Stafford? Our line's been getting better, so it's going to be, I think, heavily dependent on the Eagles' defense. I don't. I think our offense should be able to score, but can the Rams keep up? And that's going to be the big test for me. It's a 3-point spread. I think the Eagles should win this, and they should win it by more than 3 points. I know it's in LA, but obviously Eagles fans travel, so it's not going to feel as much of a home game as the Rams would want it to. So yeah, give me the birds. Give me the spread. I'll take them. Zach, who do you got for this one?
Rams.
Rams. Okay, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got
You got some
Rams.
confidence there.
So obviously spread aside. I think they're sleep. Like I said before, I think they're a sleeper team to take the NFC West. I I don't know. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I want to see Sirianni, down the stretch coach some big wins, and I guess we'll find out. But I got the Rams on this one.
All right.
Interesting.
Should be interesting. Andrew, who do you got for this one?
Let me ask you this first. I see Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith pop up as questionable on this IR report. What do you know about this, and are they going to play come Sunday evening?
Wait, sorry. What was the question for which two guys?
Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith, wide receiver quarterback. I assume they're probably going to play. I think they're just probably nursing, some bruises or something of that nature. I think they're going to play, but do you have any insight on whether or not these two, key players for this Philadelphia Eagles offense are going to play, and if so, what does it look? I, you know, are they going to
I,
play?
I would say yes, just because it was a short week for them already. Or sorry, they had a longer week already from playing last Thursday. So I think this is probably just precautionary rest for them. Obviously, when you have a bye really early in the season, down the stretch, you're going to really need to conserve the players that you can. And given, these are top two guys in our offense, it probably are. I think it's a hamstring and an ankle thing going on. Hamstrings obviously linger a bit, but I think it should be fine. I don't expect them to not play. There hasn't been any worries at all or talks of it, so I think they should be okay.
Cool. Yep. Given that, I do think the Eagles come away with it, and I do think they win by a touchdown. Um, I just think they have such a high-powered offense compared to the Rams defense. I think the Rams are sneaky, but I just find it hard when you have so many key players on the Eagles offense, and I just have a hard time with the records, betting against them. So I think the Eagles win by a touchdown.
Yeah, and Saquon, I think, is a big factor for us too. If he can keep his run game going, this man is hitting almost minimum 100 yards each game. So if he can just continue working that, then yeah, it's gonna be a tough night for the Rams defense. We'll see. But all right, moving into Monday night, we have a pretty fun matchup. We got the Ravens taking on the Chargers. I guess another game in LA, being primetime. So the Ravens just coming off a tough loss. Chargers are on a hot streak. Yeah, I think could be a turning point for both teams. If Ravens lose this, they're going to drop a little further down in playoff contention. And Chargers, if they win this, they who knows? Like Zach was saying, if they could win out, they could have maybe a shot to overtake their division. But this starts here, so I think this will be a huge matchup, and I think this will also tell if the Chargers are for real, for real. Like I keep thinking, yes, they're winning, but are they winning against good teams? Are they actually playing like up to a highly competitive level? I don't know, but I think the spread is 3 for Baltimore. Um, you know, I think I'm gonna ride the high on this one. Give me the Chargers. I think that the Ravens falter and stumble here and there. So give me the Chargers. Give me the plus money. You could take money line on this one and you get a little extra cash. But yeah, give me them. Zach, what do you got for this one?
Shout outs to Matt Baca. I'm taking the Chargers as well, and I'm shouting him out because he hates the Chargers. Uh, the Ravens are gonna need to lose this. I think personally. I think if the Ravens lose this wakes them up a little bit, gets them to realize like, hey, just because like we showed some early season dominance, and Derrick Henry was like on pace for 2,000 rushing yards and all these other accolades and MVP votes. They need to lose this, in my opinion, to figure out the playoffs. And I think it's just like the Chargers are just gonna be obnoxious to them. They're just gonna be like bug them the whole game, and it's just going to irritate the crap out of like Jackson. And I don't expect like a big passing night from Herbert. I think it's just going to be a lot of J.K. Dobbins, just kind of like running through that defensive line for the Ravens. Joe Alt has been really solid this year, and I think that's going to make a big difference.
All right, so taking the Chargers as well. Think it got you on there. Andrew, are you gonna follow suit or are you gonna go with your division rival?
Ah, man, I think I'm going to follow suit just because I'd like to see Baltimore get knocked down another peg. On top of that, this is the Battle of the Harbors. I think this is going to be a very run-oriented game. Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins revenge game here in this sense. Um, I, I still find it hard to have the Ravens have a downfield threat in the passing game. I think, a lot of their passing comes to tight ends or comes to some screen routes to Flowers. With that being said, I do think Justin Herbert can throw the ball downfield, and they have Lad McConkey, they have Quentin Johnson, some of those deep field threats. But more than anything, I think it will rely on the run game. I'm looking at the injury report as well. Looks like a lot of the Baltimore Ravens and the Chargers have a lot of defensive players that are either questionable or on IR. And Roquan Smith and Eddie Jackson and some of these key players for Baltimore kind of questionable. We'll see how it plays out. That's going to be a contributing factor. And then Khalil Mack on the Chargers as well. He's questionable too. So I
So you're
think the
saying maybe
Chargers
take the
can
over.
take it at home. I don't know, man. At the
It's a
run,
high over.
when
It's at
It's
50
a
and a half.
dogfight. This is a
yeah,
dogfight.
yeah, but I think they're going to be running the ball a lot. I think they're going to be running the ball a lot. J.K. Dobbins and Derrick Henry, and these are Harbaugh, teams, and I think when it comes down to it, Justin Herbert can throw it deep, and maybe Zay Flowers can break away one or two plays for the Ravens, and Justin Herbert can throw a bomb to Quentin Johnson. Like it can go really either way, but being that it's at home and they just came off a loss, I think that the Ravens could take a loss here, and the Chargers can get a win at home, and that would really help them in the rankings too. So they're sneaky. The Chargers are a sneaky team this year. No one really thinks that they're coming from behind how they are, but so is Denver, right? Denver's 6-5. No one thought that at the beginning of the season, so I think the Chargers are going to win it. I think the Chargers are going to win it. I don't know if they're going to cover the spread though.
Hmm. All right. I think this should be interesting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. It's good Monday night game. All right, we'll do some quick hits. So these are going to be other games that aren't prime time, but we think are going to be interesting. For these ones, I'll just say the spread. Ask you guys just a quick sentence or two. Give me who you think is going to win. Maybe a quick sentence why. And yeah, we'll just bounce off from there. So we have the Lions taking on the Colts. Lions are 9-1. Colts are at 5-6. Colts woke up and had a little bit of life in them now with getting that big win versus the Jets, but obviously Lions are just killing it. Uh, until I'm proved otherwise, Lions should beat up on these bad teams or at least mediocre teams. So the spread's only at 7. Give me the Lions all day. I think they win this by at least 10, maybe 14. Could be more. But yeah, give me that. Andrew, who do you got for this one?
Short and sweet, Detroit Lions based on the record alone. On top of that, I do think they cover the spread. I think they win by at least a touchdown.
All right, nice. And Zach, do any of the injuries, you're a little worried about your defense at all? Can Anthony Richardson do anything crazy, or is this lock for the Lions?
Lions Super Bowl.
All right. That tells you exactly what you need to hear. So Lions take this one easily by 69-7. Another score got me. We'll see. All right, cool. So we'll move into the next game. Divisional matchup. The Vikings 8-2 taking on the Bears at 4-6. Listen, I personally just gonna say this is my upset of the week. I think the Bears take this. The spread's at 3.5. They were so close against the Packers. I think Vikings can be fraudulent sometimes, and being a division matchup, anything can happen. So give me the Bears in this one. I think Vikings got to lose another one at some point. So I'll take that. Zach, who do you got for this one?
Bears fans want to lose this one. Vikings win it.
Okay, second Vikings, and they cover the spread 3.5.
Yeah, I think I mean like I don't think that this is going to be a fun game to watch. I don't think this is going to be an exciting game to watch, but I expect the Vikings to win this one like 2010. Nothing like no one's going to be like, wow, that was like some big time win. It's just going to be like that was one of the games of the year.
Exactly. All right, Andrew, who do you got for this one?
I think I'm going to echo what you said. The Bears playing at home. I think their record doesn't reflect how good they are. I mean, they could easily be a 6-4 team based on the Hail Mary pass that Jaden Daniels threw up and a field goal. So I think we got to give the Bears a little bit of credit. They got a great defense. They're playing at home here. They're my upset of the week, just as you. So I'll go with the Bears winning this one. And I don't think they cover the spread. I think they do it by a field goal.
Okay, so it could be pretty close. Well, they would.
Yeah.
They would cover the spread because they're favored or they're underdogs. So 3.5 is still like they're within that. Um, yeah, should be an interesting one. All right, cool. So moving into the 49ers at the Packers. This, probably the beginning of the preseason, you'd think this would be a huge matchup, but Niners are limping along at 5-5, just come off kind of a tough, close loss, and then the Packers are 7-3, trying to keep up with the Lions and keep it up in their tough division. Um, I believe the spread on this one. Do you guys have it pulled up at all? Um,
Yeah, -1, -2
Minus two.
Yeah,
Green
Okay,
minus
Bay.
minus
two.
minus two for Green
Hmm.
Bay. Ooh, man, this is a good rivalry. I think the Packers want revenge from losing the playoff game last year. I think they have a little more offensive power, and I think a duel between Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. Give me Jordan Love in this one. I think being at home is going to be a huge factor too. And yeah, two is a very small spread, so I think they can win this by a field goal at least. So give me Packers. Andrew, I'll start with you. Who do you got for these?
Ooh, I got the Green Bay Packers. They got a better record, 7-3, going against the San Fran at 5-5. But more than that, Brock Purdy's popping up in the injury report, as well as Nick Bosa and George Kittle. So something to keep in mind. On the Green Bay side of things, I don't see anybody too crazy popping up on their injury report. They got a high-powered offense. I think they're going to win it by at least a field goal here.
All right. And Zach, I'm going to assume you want Packers to lose, so you will take the Niners.
I mean, you could put it like that. I'm pretty sure. I think I saw like Trent Williams was also questionable, which would be huge for the Niners, whether or not he plays. My one point on this is that the Packers are like Thanos in the sense that it's supposed to be perfectly balanced. They always beat the Bears and always lose to the Niners. So I got the Niners on this. As long as Brock Purdy plays, if he doesn't play, then it's going to Packers, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. I think it'll be an interesting one. It's to be a fun matchup. All right. And lastly, we have a divisional matchup. We had the Cardinals 6-4 at Seattle playing the Seahawks at 5-5. This one. That was a good divisional matchup. I think this will give the whoever wins this is probably going to be the lead in the division, maybe. Seahawks coming off a big win, exercising their demons, beating the Niners. Cardinals coming off a bye though, and I think that will be the difference here. I think having that bye should help them. I think Cardinals, their offense is hot. They're able to put up points whenever they need to. And Seahawks can be shaky. I don't know the injury statuses right now, but just looking at it and based off who I like, give me the Cardinals. And I think the spread is at one, so a very very tight spread. But yeah, give me Arizona. Zach, who do you got for this one?
I got Arizona as well. I think that the bye does make a difference, but they've kind of shown this year that they've been kind of like sneakily good. And the Seahawks have been just kind of very wishy-washy. They haven't been consistent enough that I can ever consistently say like, oh, this seems like it's going to be an easy win for them. So I'm going to take the Cardinals on this one, and
And
definitely going to cover the spread. I think that they'll win by like four.
okay, yeah, I think so too. Andrew, who do you got?
I'm gonna go against the grain with you guys. I'm gonna say Seattle comes out on top. They're playing at home. They're at Lumen Field. On top of that, I think Seattle's, they've played a little bit harder teams in the last 5 games than the Cardinals have. And I don't think their record really shows it. I think the Seattle Seahawks have all the weapons to take away a win at home here, and I think they're gonna need to do that to step into the contention for the NFC West standings and be atop of that. So give me Seattle here.
All right, nice, nice. So we got a good variety, I think, of picks here. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Very good matchups though. It's nice that there's some parity this week. All right, well that wraps up our Week 12 preview. Looking forward to another fun weekend of football. And yeah, definitely tune in and see how these games shake out. We'll move in now, shift gears over to the fantasy football coaches corner. This is where we talk all fantasy, whether it be, good players, playoff possibilities, and yeah, best and worst performances. So we'll start with kind of continuing our interview, and I'll just ask you, Zach. So how many leagues are you in, and how are you doing in each league?
I'm in four leagues. Not great. Not great. 5-6 in one, 5-6 in another, 3-8 in one, and 6-5. So pretty middle of the road. Most of my drafts were either like third to last pick in that respective draft, and then in one I was the number one pick, and I was tricked. And I hate Shanahan for it. I was tricked into believing that Christian McCaffrey was supposed to play by like week 2 or 3. And he didn't start playing until what was it, week 9, week 10?
Yeah.
So, my fault, my bad. Uh, the 6 and 5 league is the only one that I'm like super paying attention to in the sense that just like the other ones, like I might make the playoffs, but it's like I'll probably get bounced. I have some like decent depth, but I got really mad this week because I was trying to cement like a 3 seed in that one league. And I said, you know what? Kareem Hunt. Now, here's a guy that's going to rush for some good yards against Buffalo. Buffalo doesn't have like a great run defense per ESPN or whatever. So I was like, okay, this is a guy that I feel like I could get like 15, 18 points from. So I benched David Montgomery. And
Nice.
I lost by I think like 13, 14, and Hunt got me 6. And Montgomery has a very nice 24.5 on my bench.
Oof.
So that one wasn't swell. Also, I played a really sweet call of playing TJ Hawkinson instead of Isaiah Likely. So I gotta give
I
a
mean,
shout out.
to be fair, you kind of screwed yourself there. You said so yourself. The Detroit Lions should be running up the score and beating these
Yeah,
teams
but I
like that.
also was not expecting that Demo was gonna get like 5 receptions.
Hey
Usually those
man,
receptions go to Jameer Gibbs.
I
It'll
think
be
it's
like Demo's
50-50
there
each
to get
game.
you like those 3 to 5, maybe 7 yard runs,
Yeah.
and like a touchdown, and maybe like 17 fantasy points. But like I said, I I thought Kareem Hunt was gonna have a good game. I thought like, oh, you know what, like, you have uh like Patrick Mahomes has been struggling. Their passing game hasn't been great, so it's like they're gonna rely heavy on Kareem Hunt. He gets me 6. I mean, I got tricked by effing Kyron Williams too, so I guess there's that. That didn't help me either with his sweet 8 points. But I had McCaffrey in my flex, so I was like, I'll play Kyron and McCaffrey. So it was between Demo and Hunt, and I should never, ever, ever trust ESPN analytics. I should always trust the heart.
Got to go with the gut, man. Got to go with the
Yeah.
gut.
Other than that, though, I mean, my biggest one that I think was hilarious that he fell as much as he did going into this year's Cup.
Hmm.
I drafted him in a couple leagues. I don't know why people were taking him in like the fifth, sixth round.
It's the injury concerns. Last year was
No,
such
I, no,
a
I
juggle.
do get that. That is the only thing that I'll like grant is like the expectation that he'll miss like 4 to 5 games in a year. But like Stafford loves throwing to the guy. They're like besties. They're like him. It's like him and Clayton Kershaw type of relationship. So, uh, I was surprised that like so many like leagues like people weren't even taking him as like their flex option. Like they were waiting until like way later than I would expected to. So, he's been huge for me in a couple leagues. He's been getting like 15 to 20 points like on average most of the time, and that's been pretty nice. So outside of obviously those injured weeks, but yeah. I'm trying to think if there was like any other big flops for me. But honestly, there's like for the most part, a lot of guys kind of performed at about where I would have expected them to. Like I said, Hawkinson was kind of a letdown. I mean I shouldn't expect a lot. He's still like fresh off an injury, but yeah. Unfortunate. Unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a little tough. All right, man. Well, good to hear. Sucks to see you having a rough time, but I'll ask about your playoff outlook in a bit. We'll discuss if we have the chance. Really quick, we'll just me and Andrew will go over our leagues this week and how we did. I went 3-2. Two of my ones I scored like a measly 100 points and got blown out. It was like 160 to me for both games. So my opponents just had a great week. But I was able to win. Avengers League, my best one. I almost hit 300. I hit 299 in scoring. So no one's broken, I think, 300 just yet. So I think that's the goal. But had a great Mixon had an amazing game. Burrow had an awesome game. So had some guys really hit. And I'm looking forward to it because I've gotten a couple wins under my belt. I'm playing Andrew this week. We both have some bye issues going on, so I think it'll be a fun one. But I don't look forward to that. We'll see who can if I can knock down Andrew down one peg because he's got a huge lead against everyone else. So, Andrew, how'd you do this week?
Yeah, so I'll go over I went 4-0 this week. Taysom Hill definitely saved me. Just a random flyer that I picked up and was like, I need a tight end, and I'm gonna go with Taysom Hill, and he put up 45 points and really solidified that win because I had some other people not do as well in that league. As far as where I'm at, in the Avengers League, I'm ranked first overall. In our league, I am ranked fourth overall, and then in the other two leagues that I have with Verizon and some of the other homies, I'm ranked second and third. So um, I'm making playoffs and all. I think the worst one I'm at is a 7-4 record, and I'm 90% way to make playoffs. It's really interesting this year. We are doing the Dynasty and Keeper League and trading picks, and it's all so hectic and so crazy. Shouts out to Eli and Michael for doing their best to set things up and all the questions that are being answered and asked to them. I know it's a lot on their plate, so great job at dealing with that stuff. And I'm interested to see how it shakes out this first year. But overall, great week for fantasy. These past couple weeks have been great. I'm kind of nervous with the next couple weeks coming up because I have Lamar Jackson in a couple of my leagues. I have Mark Andrews and I think week 12 or 13, a lot of these teams that I have some big heavy hitters on are going to be on buys. And it starts with this week. I'm facing Eli and I have a tough matchup against him. I don't think I'm projected to win there, but we'll see the adjustments we can make and see who has a big game. But other than that, pretty good week for fantasy football for me.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think luckily we're all doing relatively well. Well, I know Zach, you have a couple of stinkers, but Zach is a known troll because in our league his team name is Christian Ugaldi, and that's a first name and a last name of two different people in our league. So I'm always confused when I see his name pop up. I'm like, oh, I'm playing Christian. No, no, that's Zach. Or I'm playing Brian. No, that's Zach again. So it's very annoying, but don't know why he does it. Anyways, yeah, just being a troll over there. Classic Danny DeVito troll under the bridge kind of look for me.
I was thinking
Um,
about combining a couple other different people's names this year, but I was like, Christian Ugalde sounds like a beautiful girl.
yeah, you are a wild man for that. All right, let's move in really quick. We're gonna skip a couple of things. We usually do waiver wire. We have an injury update too, but first we'll talk about our projected playoff outlooks. We kind of went over some of it right now, but I'll just start. Currently, all my teams are over 500. I'm ranging from first to fifth, and I should have a good shot to make all playoffs. Obviously, the high of last year of winning three leagues was pretty incredible, and I don't know if I'll reach that again, but that's the goal. You got to try to win everything you can. So, our keeper league stuff also is interesting. People are going all in this year, trying to see if they can get a dub, and I'm trying to see if I can maybe squeeze in there, maybe get a good deal, but we'll see. Andrew, you kind of went over yours already too, right? Where your
Yep,
positions and everything.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
And then Zach, so are you thinking about your draft next year? Who you gonna pick and
Ah,
getting ready for that or
yeah. So my dynasty league, which is a keeper across the board league, I kind of got screwed in off the rip for being a auto draft league or auto draft team. I was on vacation when it was going on, so I missed it. Uh, Still reeling from how very intelligent the AI Watson system is. So I'm already considering uh draft picks trades. Mostly because I'm kind of like effed in the A. Like I don't have much options there. Like a few guys I still got on IR and some other guys like they've been pretty solid, but this week I'm kind of getting screwed. Like I don't my running back depth kind of got ruined, so I just had to pick up Zamir White off of waivers. So you can imagine the type of league this is, considering that it's a like maybe 15, 18 player bench,
Mhm.
so it's not like I had very many options. Like I'm looking at it right now. My other options were Amir Abdullah, Kenneth Gainwell, Jaleel McLaughlin. I ain't got none there. The one league that I'm like truly competitive in, uh, it's getting tight right now. Like we're getting close to the end of the season, and a few of these games are going to be pretty critical for me to make the playoffs. Obviously, I think like we have like 2 weeks left. I'm kind of like in that bubble where I'm tied for I think third or fourth. I think third actually. Yeah, I'm tied for third. Where a bunch of teams are 6-5, but like my team doesn't put up a lot of points, so I guess we'll just see how the last few games shake out. The team I'm playing this week is not very good, so if I can
Gotcha.
sneak into the playoffs, that would be great. This was the league that I kind of screwed myself over by taking McCaffrey first overall. Shouldn't have followed that trend. I should have picked like CD Lamb or
I don't
maybe
know if
like
he'd be doing that much better if he picks
I
CeeDee
mean
Lamb.
like at least he played the first 9 weeks. I mean my receiver depth is Mike Evans, Cooper Cup, and Goons. Like I don't have like great wide receiver depth either. Like I was playing this league was like with a few guys that don't do fantasy pretty like consistently. So like there were picks all over the place that I was like were real head scratchers, which really changed the whole dynamic of the draft. So
Mhm.
um that really kind of messed with like my flow. Like that's like that and the stupid 2 QB flex leagues really screw up my like logic because I like start overthinking like when I should take who and when and why.
Mhm.
So my other leagues, I'm just like, all right, well, it's kind of a wash. I'm just waiting till next year. As long as I don't get last, I have side bets with a few friends on getting last place, and I'm fighting to not get last. Thank God
All right.
Scallon exists. Oh my God, man.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my God.
is.
Like
You get
I
two
beat
lane
him this
one.
week and I did nothing to beat him. Like that poor guy, like he has like I think like the seventh most points in the league, and I don't think he has a win.
Has not won yet. That's
Yeah,
tough.
so thank the Lord because the bet I have with Scott is absolutely obnoxious. So
I think if he goes winless, he deserves a punishment, and
well,
and
yeah, he's
he
we got to
has
come up with something
he'll
fun.
have no right to deny it.
No,
Yeah,
no,
we'll have to get something going for his.
yeah,
Um,
we'll figure something out.
all right, cool, cool. Well, should be fun. I wish you luck on at least one of your leagues to hopefully get in. Um, so really quick, to run down. No waiver wires for me. I didn't really pick anybody up that was notable. Obviously, this time of the year, you maybe want to look at defenses if you have stashing options. See if you want to pick up any teams for playoffs. I will say Houston, Philadelphia, and possibly Denver are all very good options to look into. I know I'm just outing that to everybody right now, but just something to look into. It's always smart to try to play what you can.
Bucks this week. They're playing against the Giants.
Bucks are they should have a very
Picked them
any
up.
any team playing the Giants. Yeah, definitely look into those.
Yeah.
Um, do you guys have any other waivers or anything big that you picked up or nothing crazy?
I'm still
Um,
kicking myself over dropping Chase Brown in one league early on
mm,
because he wasn't doing much. And I like dropped him for 1 week because I was like, oh, like, and it was a stupid degenerates league. I put in like a $10, like a $20 rebuy on him in because he had been on a bye week and I just needed like a running back for a week. So, like, okay, well, he's gotten like 8, 10, 12 points. Like it wasn't anything crazy. So I was like, no one's gonna pick him up. And then Zach Selfridge put in for like $30 or $40 on him. I was
he's
so
been a
pissed.
great steal now. Like
Oh
he
my
is
god, I'm still reeling from that, man. Like low key, that could have been the difference between me winning like a couple of these weeks. And I'm so frustrated about it because instead it's like I'm relying on some goons. So
I picked him up in waivers for the keeper league we're in, and I'm very happy now because I'm probably gonna keep him into next year because
yeah, I
great
mean,
rookie.
Zach Moss sucks.
Yeah,
Sorry, but
yeah,
they're to all Bengals fans, but Zach Moss is not very good. Chase Brown has been solid. He's not like a top five running back, but he's gonna be like a consistent threat for that Bengals offense.
basically. So I'm happy with that. All right, so that's some couple waiver wires updates, injury updates. Big one, Gabe Davis had a meniscus tear, season ending. It's tough to see, but yeah, so he will be out. Now moving into the week 11 top performances and worst performances. I will let Zach take it from here. Yeah, feel free to start with the top and then move down to the worst.
Yeah, I'm looking at a list right here. Some of the key ones, obviously, Taysom Hill, as Andrew said, it was just like this big pop off that he's always bound to get like one or two a year. And I mean, like, great. great pickup. I mean, no one would have expected that he was going to pop off. Like the Browns are supposed to have like a solid defense, so no one expects the walking Swiss Army knife to do that. So shout outs to Taysom Hill and all Mormons everywhere. If you were a Lions drafter, then I guess you're happy with Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, uh, Goff, after coming off a really poor performance against the Texans, 5 interceptions, I don't even imagine he had more than like 8 fantasy points that week. Uh, Pops off for like over 35 in most standard leagues. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 tutties, 161 yards, like 11 receptions or something like that. Joe Mixon popping off because the Dallas Cowboys are terrible. I'm trying to think if there was a few other guys that Josh Downs actually is like another one of those sneaky guys where it's like he was Flacco's number one option, but I mean honestly, he's just like he's just good. So and then Cooper Cup, I brought him up earlier. Him and Matt Stafford, that's just like a pretty solid combination. Can't really go wrong with Cup when he's not injured. So that's been pretty big. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I really wanted to bring up on my side specifically. David Montgomery, Bo Nix and John Jennings. Bo Nix is really funny just because it's like I never expect him to do anything big, but like if you look at him from a fantasy perspective, it's just always consistently over like 20, 25 points. So currently struggling. Do you think I should play him or Kyler Murray this week?
Oof. Um, Denver's playing Raiders, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I'd probably go Bo Nix.
Yeah, that's what I was
He
thinking
might
too.
he might be able to have a
He's set for 17 and Murray for 19, but I'm like, I feel like Knicks against that Raiders defense. Yeah, they got
like I
Max
don't see
Crosby, but
Denver dropping that. I see there's a good competition with Seattle and
Mhm.
them. So yeah, well I'd probably go Knicks just to be safe.
Yeah. And then in terms of like worst performances, I brought up a few before, but Mark Andrews continues to be as inconsistent as humanly possible for fantasy purposes. I mean, he's been a solid blocker for the Ravens, but you can never expect him to be consistent. He'll go like 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 0 points, 0 points, 1 point, 2 points, and then 50, and then 20, and then 30, and then four again. So if you were a Jets owner this week, very sorry for you. If you had Garrett Wilson, that was not a great week for him. Aaron Jones weirdly had a bad week, which was surprising. Did he get like injured or something, or did he just not do anything this week?
I don't know, Andrew, do you know?
I don't. I didn't catch that Viking game. It just seems like the Viking game sometimes, like you said, it's another game. They're not going to win by a whole ton, but they do enough to skate by. But I think Cam Akers took some snaps in that game there for
Mm-hmm.
away from Aaron Jones and maybe some of the bigger plays there.
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't have an
think
injury
Akers had
designation
two.
either. So I think there's no injury designation, so I think he was fine.
I think Akers had a tutty as well, so that probably makes that difference too. And then Kirko Chains, he's not. I'm pretty sure it was written in the Bible on the Ten Commandments that he's not allowed to be much better than 500. And anytime that he is, there has to be like a season-ending injury for someone important because
Mm.
they're back to being 6-5. They went from him throwing 500 passing yards and all these crazy stats to being just about 500. So, you know,
Probably one of the more embarrassing losses of last weekend too. For
they put up
six
three
to
points or six
38,
points. Yeah,
six to
yeah.
38. Like
I think
that's
the difference between like that and like the Lions Jags game is at least like the Jags, like everyone knew they suck. So it wasn't like, oh man, what
Falcons
a
had
shock they
everyone
lost.
there. Like there shouldn't
Yeah,
they just got completely pummeled there.
I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I think they're still trying to figure stuff out there, shaking off all of the Arthur Smith stink still. I'm very genuinely curious how Michael Penix is going to be. I mean, like, I can't imagine Kirko Chains is going to last much longer. Uh, he's not very. He was never mobile before, but you can really tell like he's just a pure pocket passer at this point. It's kind of like a swan song. I see them as being like they can make the playoffs for the next couple of years and just get bounced. So I think they should start really thinking about what they want to do with Penix and if they want to start like actually using him more often just to get those like live reps. But
Yeah. Well,
um, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, they have a bye week this week too, so they'll maybe be able to
Yeah,
figure something out. But
yeah. I'm trying to think if there was like anyone else in particular that I saw that had like a actively bad week. Noah Brown did nothing for Washington after getting that big game-winning 80-yard or 80 air yard TD against the Bears. He's gone back to being like the fourth option, maybe seeing just a couple passes his way, but nothing in particular that's been big. Poor Jahan Dotson. I just want to shout him out. Poor guy goes to the commies, Redskins, however you want to call them, and there were some decent expectations. And then after his like strong rookie season, just does nothing. Goes to the Eagles, and people are saying, "Oh, maybe like as the third option behind AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, especially after AJ Brown goes down, he'll get some targets." He's just there. He's just there. I don't know. Eli, do you have like any updates on that guy? Is he like? Are they ever going to use him?
he's gotten more reps these past few weeks, and I think they're trying to ease him. He's trying to get a connection with Hurts. Obviously AJ Brown and Devontae Smith already have such a good connection with him. I think it's timing. It's getting things in rhythm. And that just takes time. He literally got picked up by the team right before the season started, so it was going to be some growing pains and adjustments. But I do truly think he should be a solid wide receiver three. He just needs time to grow into it more. But
Yeah,
there is
and
progress. There is progress.
I'll bring up one more big flop, Kelsey, and I feel bad for the Elliot Nebels of the world, that said, "Hey, Travis Kelsey, you should always rely on him to be a big time point getter." The guy got 2.8 in one of my leagues. I don't know the scoring system here compared to others, but he has not been very good this season from a fantasy perspective. I'm looking at his game log right now, and outside of 3 games, he broke 10
It's
points
had a very
twice.
slow start to the season
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
he was solid against Vegas, which shocker. Tampa, shocker, and then Denver, which is actually pretty good, all things considered. I mean, they have like pretty solid cornerback and safety system over there in Denver, but otherwise he's been pretty unremarkable this year, considering that like most seasons everyone expects him to get like 19 plus fantasy points a week, and he's had like a lot of stinkers. So
Yeah. All right, nice. So yeah, those are your best and worst performances for the week. Hopefully some of the bad ones, turn it out this week and maybe have a better showing. Um, we will move into our betting segment, odds and ends. This is where I'll go over all my bets for the week, go a recap, and then kind of the ones for the upcoming week. First, we'll start with the recap from week 11. I went 1-3. Not the best week. I had New England +5 over the Rams. I thought maybe there'd be a chance, but they couldn't close it out, get close enough at the end. I had Buffalo versus Chiefs -2.5. That hit. I was happy to see that. Cincinnati versus Chargers. I really thought they had a chance, and they did. They made the comeback, but they could not get that win. So that was a miss there. And then Pittsburgh, I took a teaser +9 and then over 41.5. If Pittsburgh just scores a damn touchdown, we're good. But they literally didn't want to do that. So that's a miss. But hey, we'll take it. It's fine. 1-3, not the best week, but we'll just keep on chugging along. I think I have some decent ones this week. We'll see. Upsets of the week. We had our first guest upset. Get it correctly. Steelers over the Ravens. They're now records 1-10 for our guests. We'll see if that trend continues. I hit my first upset in a while. I got the Colts over the Jets. Now at 3-8. And then Andrew had the Patriots over the Rams. That was sadly a miss. So his record is at 2-9. So currently, yeah, 3-8. Andrew's 2-9. Guess is 1-10. So kind of on a trend there. We'll see who can come out on top by the end of the season. Moving into some player props, we went 2-1. We had Saquon Barkley hit a touchdown that hit. Rico Dowdle over 50 rushing yards that missed. They just did not have a good rushing game that game. And Patrick Mahomes over 2 touchdowns passing. That hit. So two and one, not bad if you do that. Um, as a flex option, maybe you can win your money back. Um, but those were my bets, the upsets and player props. Did you guys have any big bets? Any big wins at all this weekend?
No, not me.
Nah.
I took a break this week from betting, so I didn't bet anything this week.
Okay, nothing for you, Zach.
Nah. On my end, I didn't put anything big. My brother had me put down for Tyson to beat what's his name? Jake
Jake Paul.
Paul. And
Yeah.
that didn't go well. I didn't even finish watching that fight. It was nasty. Oh, my guest upset this week is going to be the Pats beating the Dolphins, by the way. I think that's a
Okay,
hilarious matchup and lock that down for a 2-10 record.
okay. So we'll see how that goes down.
Shouts out to Serrano. That girl fight for
Oh my
I don't know
God,
if
she
you
got
guys caught that.
housed. She got
Oh my
housed.
gosh.
She
Yeah.
deserved that
Boom.
win. I was watching that
She
one too. That
did.
was definitely the best
Not
fight of the
not
night.
only that, but that was the best. Yeah, exactly. That was the best fight. That should have been the main event, in my opinion, because that was just a great fight overall. And Serrano, she got housed. So
That fight before it was solid too. Like both of those two fights were good. And then everything else was whatever or whatever you want to call the Tyson Paul fight. That was just nothing. But that women's fight, oh my God, they beat the snot out of each other.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a crazy fight there.
And that girl,
I,
Katie Brown or whatever, is fighting dirty, man. I don't even care
with
what
her
anyone else
forehead.
says. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Rubbing it in
I was able
volleyball.
to win some money on the Tyson Paul fight just because I bet the over. I think it was 6.5 rounds, and I had a feeling they were just gonna draw it out. Like no one's
Yeah.
getting knocked out. They're literally just gonna
Just wanted to see some entertainment.
It's
exactly.
the
So I'm like,
Mayweather fight all over again.
there's no way he's going down. So it's like, yeah, that was my thought process, and that worked out. So, um, okay. So moving into our week 12 bets. I have 4 bets on the docket again. I'm gonna no teasers this time, no overs. I'm just going straight spreads. So for this one, pretty much all favorites. I took Pittsburgh minus 3.5. I just don't see them losing this game, and I see them winning by at least more than a field goal. Detroit -7. Same thought process. They just kicked ass. I think they continue this trend, giving them easily -7. They should win this. And then Arizona -1. I'm sticking with my pick there. I think Arizona, it's definitely a toss up, but I have more confidence coming off their bye. I think the rest will help them out. And Seattle may have blew it all just to beat the Niners. And then Philadelphia -3. I'm going to ride with my team as well here. So I'm taking all of our teams to cover the spread. I really hope that works out. Um, and yeah, I think Philly should hopefully be able to get by more than 3. Should be some fun bets. I'm excited, and I'm here to root for you guys' teams too. I hope we can all dominate this weekend. Upsets of the week. These are going to be we pick a team that's a 3.5 or more spread as an underdog and pick them to win straight up. So I'm taking the Bears over the Vikings. They're 3.5 point spread. Like I explained earlier, it's a home game for the Bears, a divisional matchup. I think Vikings are a little fraudulent and could probably lose one again. So give me the Bears. We'll see what happens. Andrew, you took the same as well, right?
I'm echoing you. Yes, I am taking the Bears over the Vikings. They've had a couple close games in the past with the Commanders, as well as this missed field goal here with the Packers. I think their record reflects a little bit better, and I think they can come out on top.
Nice. All right, and Zach, you said it earlier, but you're taking the Pats over the Dolphins?
Yeah, I thought we were talking about this earlier, my bad. But yeah, I got the Pats over the Dolphins. I just think the Dolphins aren't very good this year. I don't care that Tua's back. I really don't. It's November football at this point. I mean, they're still at least playing in Miami, so it won't be cold for them, but
I mean, Drake
yeah.
Mays still has a lot of talent, so I think
Yeah,
that
that's what I was gonna say. Is
easily.
Drake May has been, I guess, my biggest surprise. I think a lot of people were expecting he was just gonna get sacked 2 billion times and then die,
Hmm.
and that just hasn't been the case. Like he's been solid. Like yeah, there's a lot of pressure on him, but he's been overcoming that pressure, and it's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, 100%. All right, moving into the underdog prize picks, player props. Does anybody have any? I don't have any this week. Been still taking a break from it. Just been on a losing streak there. Andrew, you got anything?
Nope, nothing at all.
Not for you. Zach, do you got any fun player props? You think anything will hit the over?
Nah, I ain't got I haven't been betting in like a few weeks. I had some really stupid anytime touchdown uh huge parlays that just didn't hit, and I'm just like I'm gonna take a break and then
What, you're
do that
telling me the
again.
the classic eight leg anytime
Listen,
touchdowns didn't
man,
hit? You know,
I've hit
that's
on
easy
like
money.
I've hit on like an 8 of 12 parlay for like 9 grand. Okay, so
Okay, okay.
hold your horses, man. If I had
And,
cut out
and
those
and I'm
extra
guessing you've been
picks.
chasing that high ever since and spent all 9 grand or what?
Oh, 100%, man. I put like that $5, 12 player parlay, man. It's gonna work one of these days, and I'll tell everyone, see, I know what I'm doing.
All right, well, I wish you luck. Hopefully you get back into betting and yeah, make some extra money. Um, okay, moving on from our odds and ends. We will move into touchdown trivia. So to recap, week 11, who is the all-time leading passer for the Chicago Bears franchise? The correct answer was Jay Cutler. Classic Cutler, smoking cigs, hanging out, just being a bro.
Getting
Uh,
DUIs.
and he is the leading all-time passer. So that just tells you something about this Bears franchise. Um, moving into the Week 12 trivia question. This will be pertaining to the Detroit Lions. And Zach, feel free to answer if you don't know, if you want to make a guess. But if you do know, go ahead and refrain. We'll let our listeners take a stab at it on Spotify. How many playoff wins do the Detroit Lions have in the Super Bowl era? The options are A, 5 wins, B, 2 wins, C, 4 wins, or D, 3 wins. D for sure, no?
Yes, I do know because the Lions suck
Okay.
historically.
Well,
Not now, but historically.
it's true. It's true. So that tells you everything you need to know. These are very all low options, so feel free to take a stab at it. So all of our
There ain't no
listeners,
bad.
we'll have the poll set up on Spotify. And speaking of that, yeah, feel free to follow, like, share, subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, as well as follow on Instagram. Share with any friends and family who are interested in football and maybe have some questions about fantasy or just want to get overall into football a little more. And yeah, that kind of summarizes and concludes this episode of the podcast. So I just want to thank Zach for coming on. Appreciate you sharing your insight, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the Lions making the Super Bowl. If you do, maybe we'll have you back. We'll let you just go on a spiel and
Yes.
say what you want to say about them. But yeah,
Mhm.
thank you again, Andrew. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just a huge shout out to Zach. I appreciate you jumping on, making time for this. And to all the listeners out there, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, touchdown_times for Instagram, and then answer those polls out there and tune in next week to catch us and see where we're at next week with football. So appreciate it. This is Alo signing off. Peace out, guys.
Thanks, Zach. Peace.